40 tons of sun-warm peaches were sweating in steel trailers when the HOA president in a straw fascinator lifted a padlock like a trophy. My harvest trucks idled in a line stretching to the horizon. The new Cedar Vale Meadows private gate clanged shut across County Road 14, and Cynthia Prentice announced with a triumphant voice that no more farm traffic would be lowering their property values. 5 minutes later the sheriff rolled up, looked at the gate, radioed the county, and said the sentence I will keep in a frame forever. Send the dozers. I am Jesse Calder, a quiet fourth-generation grower on Barley Creek Flats in Red Willow County. I mind trees, not neighbors. My world consists of irrigation schedules and sugar levels, not committees and meetings. Enter Cynthia Prentice, president of the Cedar Vale Meadows HOA, a subdivision that sprouted on the ridge like a decorative fungus 3 years ago. She moved in with a bylaws binder thick as a phone book and a belief that nature should whisper after 5 p.m. Our first interaction happened when she appeared at my property line with a measuring tape, stretching it alongside my John Deere tractor. She declared with a disgusted tone that my equipment was visually aggressive and demanded I park it elsewhere during daylight hours. The letters started arriving weekly at first, then daily. She cited me for dust violations every time the wind blew. She complained about agricultural odors when my trees bloomed in spring. She filed a formal grievance about my rooster, claiming he had a disruptive worldview that violated the peaceful enjoyment clause of their community standards. She attempted to enforce quiet hours on my orchard, insisting that the sound of sprinklers at dawn constituted harassment. She published a newsletter titled Protecting Peace from Produce where she accused my workers of reckless fruiting and suggested my operation was decreasing home values by 30%. Then came the trespass selfies that made my lawyer laugh out loud. Cynthia had been entering my property to photograph my harvest bins from within my own rows, posting them online with captions about industrial eyesores. She measured the height of my fruit crates and declared them non-compliant with the aesthetic standards she believed should apply to the entire county. When my peaches reached perfect bricks levels and the refrigerated trucks began their seasonal parade, she escalated dramatically. She hired a landscaping company to drop decorative boulders along the road shoulder, making it impossible for trucks to pull over safely. She posted fake residents-only signs every 50 feet along the public road. She spread rumors at the country club that I was illegally using a private lane for commercial purposes. That lane was County Road 14, a public thoroughfare that had existed since 1952, decades before her Italian marble countertops were even quarried. On the morning of my biggest harvest day, with a storm system approaching from the west, Cynthia executed what she called Operation Reclaim Our Street. She had a contractor install a locked metal gate across the county road at 4 a.m. She positioned 2 HOA golf carts sideways behind it for extra blockage. She strung a banner reading Cedar Vale Meadows residents only, no commercial traffic. Then she called 911 to report trespassers with commercial vehicles threatening the peace of her community. My crew of 30 workers stood in the growing heat while sugar levels climbed dangerously in the fruit and the delicate skins began to soften. The storm line bruised purple on the western horizon. Every minute meant thousands of dollars in potential losses. I pulled out my battered folder of documents while Cynthia shouted at the responding deputy about property rights. I showed him the county right-of-way plat from 1952. I presented the farm to market road designation from 1978. I had recorded easements dating back 4 generations. I showed him tax records proving my family had been using this road for agricultural operations since before Cynthia was born. She waved her HOA bylaws like Holy Scripture and told the deputy with absolute conviction that their board had voted this road private last night in an emergency session. The deputy looked at her with barely concealed disbelief and said slowly, as if explaining to a child, "That is not how roads work. You cannot vote a public road into private property." He radioed for the county engineer to come immediately. The engineer arrived in a dusty county truck with a rolled map and the grin of a man about to legally ruin someone's morning. He traced the right-of-way with his gloved finger, reading parcel numbers aloud like he was calling bingo. He photographed every fake sign, measured the illegal gate placement, and documented the obstruction with the thoroughness of someone who had dealt with entitled subdivisions before. The sheriff stepped forward and announced in his official voice that this obstruction was unlawful. Cynthia was interfering with agricultural operations and blocking emergency vehicle access, both serious violations. She tried to pivot desperately, offering to allow passenger cars only, as if my 40 tons of peaches could somehow commute to market in sedans. That is when I pulled up my doorbell camera footage on my phone. The video clearly showed Cynthia at 2 a.m. directing the boulder placement with hand signals like a demented traffic controller. My neighbors from the legitimate farms nearby produced text messages from her HOA group chat. Tonight we take back our street from these tractors. No more living in an industrial zone. Make them find another route even if we have to make them. The sheriff's radio crackled with the message everyone had been waiting for. Road crew en route with heavy equipment. 2 yellow bulldozers crested the ridge like patient dinosaurs returning to reclaim their territory. The county foreman jumped down and photographed the padlock before cutting it with bolt cutters, bagging it as evidence. The dozers pushed the HOA planters aside like toys. They scooped up the decorative boulders and the residents' only archway Cynthia had personally designed. The gate posts came up with a groan and a spray of defeated concrete. The metal gate itself got loaded onto a county flatbed as evidence. The sheriff waved my lead driver through with a formal gesture. My trucks thundered past in a convoy while Cynthia stood frozen, her straw fascinator crooked, her mouth opening and closing without sound. When she finally found her voice, she whispered about their covenants, their property values, their rights as homeowners. The foreman, not even looking up from his clipboard, responded that covenants do not trump county law. The deputy stepped forward with his citation book and began writing. He cited her for obstruction of a public way, a misdemeanor carrying up to 6 months in jail. He cited her for false reporting to 911. He cited her for criminal mischief related to the placement of hazardous obstacles on a public road. He cited her for conspiracy to interfere with agricultural operations, which in our farming county was treated as seriously as assault. My crew cheered from their trucks and then loaded fruit with the speed and precision of a racing pit crew. Court came faster than Cynthia expected because agricultural losses do not wait for convenient scheduling. The judge, a local man who understood farming, listened to the evidence with growing irritation. He issued a permanent injunction prohibiting any gates, obstructions, or HOA signage on county infrastructure forever. He ordered the immediate removal of all false private road signs within 24 hours. He mandated that the HOA send written apologies to every farm operation they had harassed. But the criminal charges brought the real consequences. Cynthia received 2 years probation for the combined charges. She had to pay $28,000 in restitution for the county's emergency response and dozer time. The judge ordered 400 hours of community service, specifically clearing roadside ditches during harvest season while wearing a bright orange vest that read Working Farm County in large letters. The HOA's insurance company reviewed the case and immediately denied coverage for intentional and criminal acts, leaving the board personally liable. The board held an emergency meeting where they voted 17-1 to remove Cynthia as president and ban her from any future board positions. They then levied a special assessment of $800 per household to cover the legal costs, causing several pool committee members to openly weep. Cynthia's real estate license got suspended for 6 months due to the criminal convictions. Her husband filed for divorce 2 weeks later, citing irreconcilable differences and extremist HOA behavior in the paperwork. When the judge read the final sentencing, including the requirement that she personally apologize to me in open court, Cynthia's face went through every shade from red to purple to white. She stood up, swayed slightly, and whispered that this could not be happening, that she had only been protecting property values. The judge's gavel came down with finality. 2 years probation, $28,000 in restitution, 400 hours in an orange vest. Her jaw dropped as the bailiff stepped forward with the paperwork.